Hi, I'm Annalise, RN IBCOC from Latched, and you're now watching Latched TV. Today we're going to do things a little differently. I have with me one of my amazing patients and her partner, and we're going to talk about the truth of breastfeeding journeys. I feel like here in Miami, we don't talk about these things. It's not the cool thing. I just feel like it's very important. I hope with Latched, I can give a voice to others, and with that, they can also help other families that are going through things when they feel all alone. I feel like people that are breastfeeding, it's a very lonely journey because either they're being told constantly that they should be doing things differently by their friends and family, they're looked down upon, they can't breastfeed in public. There's so much. And I feel like it's important to talk about and to put a voice to this. So, with that being said, I'm going to introduce you to my amazing patient, Luba and Spiro, which is her amazing husband. He's been very supportive during this journey. And I have helped Luba from very early days and so on. So thank you so much for being here with us. I'm super excited for this. If you can share with us a little bit about you and what your breastfeeding journey has been like.
I'm Luba. My breastfeeding journey started obviously in the hospital. I was met with a lot of difficulties, not only just with the idea of like how my labor was going to be. There was a big change. I didn't get to have a natural labor. I had to have an emergency C-section. So with that, I was not met with like my golden hour. So I didn't have that beautiful skin to skin interaction with my child. It was like 8 hours later that I saw my baby. So I had to wait for anesthesia, that epidural to wear off, and all this other stuff. So there was a lot of stuff that kind of met with difficulties. And then we had a lot of difficulties latching right in the beginning. So I was met with having to manually express milk. So I was literally manually expressing from my boob while my husband was taking a syringe and pulling milk from my breast just to give like little mLs
That is so hard.
to my baby. And then just I don't know, it was just weird. Like, nurses come in, they grab your boob, they put your baby, and it's like they don't really teach you how to do things. So it was just kind of like a weird experience. Um, and even though I had taken classes from before, it was obviously more difficult. But I had like a sit down with a lactation consultant until after I came home. So I was really excited about that coming home to meet with somebody. But I didn't know that was going to be even more traumatic because I was met with difficulties and I had to resort to pumping while I was in the hospital. I wasn't with you at first. I met somebody else. Her name will not be said, but it wasn't a very good experience. It was somebody who didn't really think about, what were the factors that were affecting me with my child. Why was he not latching? And it was more like, you just can't give in to giving him bottle. You just can't be exclusively pumping. You have to wait till you're 4 weeks out of, breastfeeding and then start pumping. And it was just like I was met with a lot of difficulties. My baby was not latching, and I just had to feed him, and I didn't want to have to resort to formula. So that was my beginning journey of like having this difficulty with breastfeeding, how to latch. Um, was I doing the wrong thing by pumping? So there was a lot of things that kind of affected me right from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm. No, it's super difficult. And Spiro, how about you? How was the beginning of your fatherhood journey?
Just like she mentioned, I think it was you know drinking out of a fire hose because we literally went in with a plan. We did as much as we could researching what were our goals, our vision, and then upon the birth of our child, we knew we had to feed, of course. And she was experiencing all kinds of trouble at the get-go, and me, trying to support her, doing whatever I can. So I feel that parenthood from the beginning was it's a humbling experience because you have this plan, you have this you have a strategy that you're going to go with, but then your child or your experience may go in a different direction. And so we were scrambling for help and support. And you know to new parents out there, they may get advice and guidance from others as they go through along the challenges, but ultimately your child's going to dictate what's going to work for them. And then what you do to react to that is you know um, how you deal with that problem, and if you can deal with that problem. But for us, like it was, one of the basic elements in parenthood is like feeding our child because we knew that we wanted to, keep it with breast milk and not go to formula. And we did have some outside consulting, and we're so glad that we're here. But stories like ours, I think, need to be set out there because everybody has a rosy experience here and there, but there are a lot of families out there that are not getting that sort of type of experience. And so, what did they do to overcome those challenges? I think is very supportive of like the whole journey and the whole process. But ultimately, it is a team like effort, and so you have your partner at your side, but ultimately, people like you, like Latched, who are the professionals who really know how to navigate this whole process. It really helped us along the way. So we're just so fortunate.
I'm so glad to hear because the truth is like the biggest misconception when it comes to breastfeeding is that it's so natural, right? Like a lot of people think I don't need to even prepare because I was born for this, right? And the truth is, yeah, you are born for this, but I don't know, along the way things have changed, and as you see, it wasn't as natural. Like, you were told like just latch your baby, but what do you do if your baby's not latching?
Yeah.
Like, and this is supposed to be the most natural thing, but it sometimes isn't the way. So I love that you said like, yeah, some people have rosy experiences where it's super perfect, and but I would even say those people sometimes are considered lucky and it just worked that way. So I completely agree with what you're saying. So what is one thing you feel that you learned during this breastfeeding journey that no one talks about, no one prepares you for?
Well, I think one thing is what kind of milk producer you're gonna be. Are you gonna be producing, a good amount of milk so you have a good supply for your child, or you're gonna have to be working hard for it, pumping and doing power pumps and building your supply for your baby? Are you gonna be a just enougher, which is what I am, a just enough, I make just enough to give my baby exactly what he needs,
Which is perfect.
or you're an oversupplier, which is a lot of people that
Mhm.
are oversuppliers, and people don't realize that people are oversuppliers, and that's just how their body is,
Yeah.
and you don't know what kind of milk supply you're gonna be.
Mhm.
And then the misconstrued notion that you're gonna be breastfeeding, you're gonna lose all this weight, and then you're gonna feel like amazing, and no. I've always been physically active my whole entire life. Like you ask any of my friends, I'm always been like the fittest one, always working out, in good shape. I don't think I've ever been like remotely overweight. Maybe I've gained weight here and there, but I've always been super active. I was active throughout my whole entire pregnancy. And I was like, oh my God, when I'm done with this pregnancy, I'm going to lose all the weight. I'm going to breastfeed. I'm going to lose it just like nothing. Cause they say when you breastfeed, you like lose all this weight. And then it's such a lie. And it's such a lie. And you're already going through such a big hormonal shift. You're tired, you're consumed with taking care of your baby, and then you're trying to like feel good in this body that you don't feel good in. So it's like I'm doing all this work, and then like I'm not losing the freaking weight. This is horrible. And it's not to be vain. It's just like you want to feel comfortable in your body,
Of course.
and you go through so much stuff, and it's just hard. So yeah, it was a misconstrued notion that being a breast milk mama and breastfeeding that you're gonna lose all this weight, and it just doesn't happen. And some people they go right back to their normal shape like 2 weeks later, 2 months later, and like 3 months later, and then here I am almost 4 months later, and I'm still like 40 pounds overweight, and it's hard.
That's super hard because breastfeeding is extremely emotionally demanding. So when you feel like you're battling yourself, and I agree with you, I don't think it's vain. Like maybe some people could think that, but it's how you feel happiest.
Everybody's like, oh, just give yourself some grace. I'm like, I'm giving myself grace.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm not giving myself grace. And it's just hard because, you know how you feel inside. Like I know how I feel inside, but when I look at myself in the mirror, you don't see that person.
For
like,
sure.
Wow, I look so different.
For sure.
And like you get emotional about it. Like I get teary eyed because you feel bad. But it's hard.
But I think I feel really proud of you. Like I see how hard you're working to find yourself and find your happiness, and I really applaud that in you because some people don't even acknowledge that. So that's something to be proud of, that you're able to acknowledge that you know what it is that's gonna like make you happy and you're fighting for your goals. And I'm really proud of you.
It's hard, but it's also a journey. So it's a season.
It's a season.
We call it.
It has to end. You know, all seasons come and go.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And a lot of people don't talk about that.
You're so right.
That's hard.
Thank you. No, for real. Thank you for sharing that, because it's true. This is the whole point of this, to talk about the truth, the things that people don't post on Instagram.
Yeah.
It's not every day that you see on Instagram, hey, I'm struggling with this. Like, no one wants to say like what's really going on. Everyone just wants to say all the pretty parts about breastfeeding. So that's what this is for.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that?
Yeah. So like being a supportive partner in her journey and her experience, and seeing some of the conflicting issues that she may have, you know, when it comes to not only being a producer to something that's very important to our child, but also getting back into shape, or, you know, getting back into that lifestyle that her and I both had. It is, I can see the challenge, of course, but, you know, understand that you have a goal in mind, understanding that, you know, you have commitments. It is a huge responsibility upon her, upon us as parents, to make sure that we commit through providing, you know, the most basic resource to our son. And that's really, you know, having a consistent supply. But at the same time, you know, you have ambitions for dietary necessities that are somewhat conflicting. And so I feel like sometimes people don't necessarily talk about that, because if you do want to lose weight while still producing, it is a little bit of a conflict, because, you know, she had a whole diet regimen to making sure that she has a good ample supply with, you know, with her oats and all kinds of additional supplements that she would create. I mean, literally, our quarter of our fridge was like dedicated to milk production. And then at the same time, you're like, okay, well, now I need to count the calories. Now I need to know how to, you know, burn fat. And so some of those things don't necessarily they don't necessarily jive together. So
well, also too, with that, there's a lot of products out there that people don't really talk about that are supposed to be like these magic milk producing products that really just don't work. And what they're doing is giving you added calories and added sugars. They're just genuinely bad for you. And I actually gained a lot of weight with them. And it was like, I mean, I get I'm gonna be producing milk, but I don't need to be eating at all hours of the day.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. They're like, no, you have to eat when you're hungry because this, that, whatever. I'm like, I don't need to be eating at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Like it was like snacking at night. I'm like, this is why I'm getting obese too.
And we've done it all. Like our fridge was somewhat filled with Malta. We've had all kinds of people tell us, like, oh,
Malta,
for milk production.
Armor, and then there's like Milk Flow, and then there's this other one. I'm just like,
there's so many.
The sugars and all my sugars you're drinking, and like I'm like, I gotta stop all that.
Yeah.
But even when I stopped it though, it was still really hard. Like I'm just like slowly losing maybe like a pound or 2 here, but it also too, like I still need to nourish my body, so I'm just making like better health choices, which I've done before when I was not pregnant. But it's like you don't want to just cut things out and like,
of course, it's like you know what to
your
do.
Supply, because you're like, well, my goal is still to like breastfeed and make milk. So, but yeah, it was hard. This is cute.
We have a new member to our interview today. What's your name?
What's your name?
Dimitri.
Oh. And how old are you?
I'm gonna be 4 months now.
You are too big. So everyone, Luba, how many weeks were you when I helped you? Give or take.
I would say about like 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Yeah.
And now he's 2 months.
No, 4 months.
4 months.
4 months.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's been a while. So you helped me. You came over a couple times, which was nice about Latched.
So we had to take a little pause because, as you can see, necessities, priorities. But here we are. We're going to continue on. I really want to talk about something super important. Luckily, nowadays, things are changing when it comes to the support from partners. Because I don't know about you guys, but from where I come from, like the Latino culture at least, and I'm going to be honest, we're in Miami, so I feel like back in the day, men weren't involved in the care of babies. It's only the woman's responsibility.
Yeah.
There's no support when it comes to men. And I feel like luckily times are changing when it comes to that, thank God. But if I've noticed one thing, Luba, is you have an incredible partner here. At least every time that I've come to help you, we call him the coffee man. I've never come over when he's always making coffee. I think that's all he does. No, I'm just kidding.
He changes diapers too.
I didn't mean it like that. But I think it's important to talk about your breastfeeding journey and the support that you have gotten from your supportive partner, and how I would love to hear your perspective, yours, and I would love to hear your perspective on how you feel like you've gotten through this breastfeeding journey with his help, and what it would have been like if he wasn't helping.
So I think first and foremost, going into parenthood, you have to have like this mindset that this is a team effort. It is such a team when it comes to bringing home a child and just taking care of them. But then on this other aspect of like breastfeeding, um, you go through so much as a woman. Um, Not only just learning how to latch, the whole process of what happens with your breast while you're latching, the transition of your nipples, the pain that you go through, um, you know, I'm gonna give up. This is not sustainable for life. This is hard. Like I don't want to do this anymore. Um, it's really an emotional roller coaster. And there was a lot of times where I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. And he's like, well, just try and latch the baby. So like when I was met with a lot of difficulties, he'd be like, well, why don't you just try and latch him? And like I was already kind of like, oh, I don't know if I want to do it. I'm just gonna be an exclusive pumper. Let me just exclusively pump, because I was just already scared about how I was gonna feel. Every time I would latch him was like super painful, and you have to go through that hump and that hurdle to get to where it's like where they say euphoric. At beginning is not euphoric, but you have to go through that hump and hurdle to get there, because it's obviously I'm not crying right now while he does it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there's a big uh transition in like how you evolve with breastfeeding. And if it wasn't for him to be like, why don't you just try to latch him? I'm like, are you sure? He's like, yeah, just do it. And every time he would do that, the baby would latch. And then I would have another like good experience. Are you upset? Oh boy. Sorry.
This is the truth, guys. This is what we're doing.
It's okay. He wants all the attention on him.
Yeah, it's okay.
But every time he would like support me, be like, just try. And like, my mindset was not there. If he had not tried, if the mindset of him telling me like, hey, just try and keep doing it, then maybe I might not have ever had the experience of latching him. Hi, what's wrong? Yeah. Like I was saying, like if it wasn't for him supporting me in the process and be like, just try, just take a moment to do it. And my mindset was probably not geared there, because you're going through so many different changes as it is, and your hormones are all over the place. That the last thing you're thinking about is like, well, let me just try again because it's killing me. It hurts. I don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the moments that we did try, because he supported me to do it, are the moments that he latched. So that it got me closer to my breastfeeding journey with him.
Yeah.
And it was like the more I latched, the less I pumped.
Mm-hmm.
And I only pumped because I had to go back to work.
Yeah.
So it was like I was doing more of this
Mm-hmm.
than I was doing more of sitting down on the couch with somebody gave him a bottle. I
Yeah.
would just interact with my baby and bond with him.
Mm-hmm.
So it was nice because he supported me in that process. If he hadn't told me, hey, just try and latch, I don't think my mindset with where I was would have led me to where I am now.
For sure. Makes total sense. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I just supported her along the way. It's really like she mentioned, a team effort. I'm literally there alongside of her when she's going through her challenges, suggesting, "Hey, just give it another try. Let's go this route. Let's go that route." I was kind of hands on from the beginning, knowing that it was really between the two of us on how we went through this approach, this challenge, or whatever we were facing at the time, and what do we do about it. So I felt like you know giving her that little that little bit of support actually paid through, because to her it was like self-defeating. She wasn't getting immediate results, like as it was promised, or like the rosy
Mm.
scenarios that were given by other people's stories, and it wasn't immediate at the time, and the child's reacting differently. This is a new experience. It's an out-of-body experience for the child, so it's like so many things were taking place. And really, as a father, and you're seeing your wife go through this, it's troubling to see. But understanding that like the perseverance, the continuation of trying a different approach or trying the same approach until it finally latched on. It was great to see. And kind of what you mentioned earlier, like I work from home. The whole remote work lifestyle really helped me to be sort of more hands-on than I would usually be. Otherwise, I'd be kind of more of the traditional 9 to 5, driving to and from work. Really, I'm not going to be here next to my son, but given that we live in different times where we have those types of workplace flexibilities, I'm actually able to be a little bit more hands-on than what I would have otherwise been. And that helps with feeding. That helps with the development of my son. Making sure that he goes through those stages. And really at the heart and center is making sure that there's enough food supply. In this case, where we're providing him with an important source of nutrition, straight from the mom's source. That was essential, and making sure like from the get-go that when she was heading out to work, that we have a backup plan, that we have backup supply. All those things had to be ready for and if there was ever a situation where we were short on supply or he's hungry, we never wanted to be left without some sort of food for him. And so yeah, so I think it was we just like every time we had a different stage that we were met with some challenges. We have a plan, we have an approach. We reached out to other people, third party people, people that were experts. What do we do to kind of resolve this situation? They're able to help. So we're certainly glad that we're able to overcome it, and we're still experiencing some challenges here and there. But it's never going to be a straight line. I think it's going to be a narrow and winding road to get to these different development and stages with your son or your daughter, and certainly from our child, we're learning as we go.
For sure.
And but one piece of the most important element is again having breast milk, having a good supply for his growth. And if they're not latching on, you can't even start. And so that's where I feel that again, latch coming in from the get go. And I think I mentioned to you this earlier. Like it's so great to see her go from like day one on trying to latch onto our baby to today, where she's like expertly being able to latch him immediately. Like as you can see, it's really nice to see that. So
I have goosebumps.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I think I actually wanted to ask you, but I'm going to change the question. What is one thing you're most proud of her for? I was going to ask you can answer.
Sure.
What is something you're proud of yourself for, and what is something you're proud of her for?
I'm to be proud of, glad to be here, just being available. Like that's to other dads out there, that's a luxury. Some people, depending on their work, on their availability, don't have that sort of opportunity. Certainly when I grew up, my father was out. So again, changing times and technology really provided us, enabled us to if we had the luxury, be closer to home or be closer to our family. So I'm just so proud that I'm able to provide that sort of resource, be that little net to fall back on in the event she's tired and it's like it's 1:30 in the morning, 2:30 in the morning, and I'm there. I'm here.
Yeah.
So I guess I would say I'm really proud to just be there. I may not know what to do at the time or which AM or PM bottle I may have gotten at the time. So
may have mixed some bottles.
But in the thick of it all, just being there is an accomplishment itself. So happy to I'm proud to even be available for us to go through this journey together, because I could just imagine her by herself if she didn't have you, she didn't have like her support network. That's a really lonely and scary thing for I guess for either a single parent or a mother that's going through these troubles. So and it's so easy for moms out there, I would imagine, and every story is different. We're not judging here, but it's so easy for them to just like hit the eject button and stop the breastfeeding, go straight into formula. It's so easy to just go back into their lifestyle and not have to worry about producing the milk and be that producer, but you're skipping all this nutritional pass-through immunity and all these benefits that mothers provide to their. So I find this to be such an essential thing to my child, my son, and doing whatever I could do to help and support her in that journey is, again, just being there is probably the one most important thing.
I think that was, you couldn't have said that better. That was such a beautiful answer, honestly. I'm trying not to cry now either, but I think that's beautiful, and I think it's important to share, because I have seen with my own eyes other dads feel like you, but maybe they feel like they can't talk about this because it's not, the macho thing to say. And maybe you don't agree with that, but I'm sure other men out there feel lonely when it comes to supporting their partner in their breastfeeding journey, because maybe their friends don't feel that same way. So I really love that you were able to share that, so that other men out there can feel that they're not alone, and that I think that it's a beautiful privilege to be able to support your wife in this journey. I mean, it's what you're here for. It's like, and
to do this together, like
together.
You sign up for marriage, like
it's together to go through everything together.
Parenthood is together, and I feel bad for those people that don't have like a good partner, or have strayed away from their partner because it didn't work out. But like doing this by yourself would be extra hard and very much more emotionally challenging and difficult altogether. And my husband does a really good job. Like he really helps me out a lot. And even the days that I have to go to work the next day, like he'll try to like make sure he takes the baby so he can sleep a little bit more. And it's just about being supportive in that process. But having supported me through the whole journey, whether it was like, okay, let's try to breastfeed as best as we can, and also support me, like if this wasn't going to be our journey, like we were going to be okay. Like he wasn't going to make me feel guilty because I couldn't do it, and
that's very important too.
Because there's some people that just can't. They don't make the milk, and that breaks my heart because like I said, I'm a just enougher. Like I make just enough, but I can't imagine what it's like to like be pumping and like I only get 1 ounce.
There's some people that have
not enough for the baby, and that would break my heart because you have this expectation of like you're going to be able to do all this, and it's really not necessarily the situation.
Some people have medical history that they can't produce, and that's heartbreaking.
What?
He agrees, that's heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking. Let's put you back on.
What is something that you feel most proud of yourself for and proud of him for?
Well, I think proud of him is his open-mindedness about everything that we've had to go through. Being a voice of reason for me and not letting me feel like let down. Because women go through so much emotionally, and with the hormones, we tend to be a little crazy.
Oh, yes.
And having to deal with that, and just knowing that like not really me that's coming at you like that, but being patient and kind and understanding with everything that I'm going through emotionally, and just being super supportive throughout everything. I'm super proud of him because he could easily be like, well, you figure it out because you're the mom and you got to figure it out because you're the one who's breastfeeding. I don't need to do that because I don't need to. I'm not the one who's going to be able to do it anyway. So figure it out, But just being constantly supportive throughout the whole entire process, and how amazing he is with my son. Like the days that I'm at work, sending me videos, we call it lesson plans. We do lesson plans, putting him in tummy time, making sure we do all this developmental, work with him. So he is growing and not only being nurtured by me, but also growing and being, how do you say it? Like
learning.
No learning, but like expanding his mind and making him get better at life.
For sure.
So he really plays an important role. So just because he can't give milk doesn't mean he can't give in other ways. He gives in so many different ways, and I'm so proud of him about that. And I think for me was not giving up on the breastfeeding journey. Papa, come here. But that's because I had a lot of support from Latched. Because it wasn't like a one and done deal. Like I see you one time, maybe I'll answer your text message. No, it was like whenever I had a question, I could call you, ask you. you'd come and set up additional meetings to come see me if I was met with challenges, like with like the newest thing was the flange injury and changing my flange size for pumping, just so many things. But I'm glad that I never just gave up being able to have this experience with my son and bonding with him and being able to give him the nutrients that he deserves, like from me. And like I never want to, you know, how do you say, like talk down about people that just give formula
For
because
sure.
like they're met with different challenges or personal wants and needs,
For
which
sure.
is okay.
Mm-hmm.
They're giving their baby nutrition, which is super important.
Yes.
But for me, this was my goal,
Mm-hmm.
and my goal was to breastfeed my child.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it's met its challenges, there's some times where I'm just like, oh my god, I'm so tired. This is a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
This is a full-time job. I'm proud that like every day I'm able to be like, okay, one more day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, one more day.
One day at a time.
One day at a time. Because
Yeah.
that's all you can do. Because I can't think about in a year something like that'll be like a struggle bus for me now. Because when you're in it, you're like, wow, this is a lot of work. Before you actually have the baby, you're like, I'm gonna breastfeed for a year,
Yeah.
and this is gonna be my life. But you don't really know how it's gonna feel until you're doing it.
For
especially
sure.
if you're gonna be a new mom.
Mm-hmm.
And God willing, if we get pregnant again and we have another child,
Mm-hmm.
like I'll be so much more prepared. I'm mentally aware about what to expect
Mm-hmm.
because I wasn't expecting any of this. This was just a lot of different challenges and a lot of different information. And I didn't realize, like, this was what it was. Like, there's just so much more that goes to it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some people that are, like my sister said, they're milk babes. They just, like, boom, make milk, lose weight, boom, boom. And then it's like, we're making enough that we can. Then we're struggling with weight. And it's just like, there's just so much that goes into it. So,
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think a lot of people really truly talk about how hard
For sure.
motherhood is with the aspect of like breastfeeding and its challenges.
Mm-hmm.
I'd add to that, like, we've, like she mentioned before in our story, where we went through someone else, and they try to provide their advice from a distance, and they weren't necessarily present. They weren't necessarily um, empathetic to the struggles. And we felt with Latched, you were here, you were responsive, you were able and willing to try different approaches, and that believe it or not, I think helped us get through quite a bit, and
Yeah.
still go through. Because it's an evolving situation. So you're constantly there. So I think to make a point, I think I can attest that uh, with Latched, we've had a way better experience.
Oh, yeah.
We're so grateful
1000%.
that we overcome these obstacles. And through your advice and your approach, I think it really helped us. But
It wasn't
I would
even
say,
that. It's
yeah,
like you just really listened.
yeah,
It's like I was voicing to you that the person that had seen me, she had come and seen me at my house, and it was, wasn't a bad experience that day. I got a lot of good information, not to knock
Mm-hmm.
her down. But like when I was met with difficulties, that he wasn't latch anymore because I had like that areolar and nipple engorgement, and I was expressing to her that something was wrong, and she was like, "Oh, you're just a very anxious mama," and I'm like,
Everyone stare at the camera really quick. Can you believe that? Mm-hmm.
I'm not an anxious mama. I'm a worried mama because I'm trying to latch my baby, and if I'm going 5 hours without feeding my baby, then we got a big problem because he's very little to be going 5 hours without feeding.
Absolutely.
And just like not listening to the things that I was saying. Like I'm like, my boobs have changed. I feel like they've deflated, and like I didn't know how else to express like what it was that I was going through. But when I met with Annalise and everything, and I was telling her what I was going through, and I had pictures of what my breast looked like, because you become like, you take pictures of your breast, you start you have pictures of your boobs all over the place.
For sure.
I was showing
Which
her,
helped us, actually.
yeah,
Helped
exactly,
me.
yeah. So I was able to show her what my breasts looked like before I had this issue, and then she's like, "Oh, this is what's going on. This is what you have to do." And it's like we found a solution to the problem instead of just calling me an anxious mama.
Mm-hmm.
And there was actually a real issue at hand that was going on, and she was able to identify it instead of like dismissing the things that I was telling you. Especially the other person. So, and I was met with somebody who just had no idea that there was something outside of breastfeeding. Yes, there is exclusively pumping if it's necessary, and the fact that you were supporting me with like, hey, if you need to go pumping wise, that's
Mm-hmm.
perfectly fine. but still try to latch every once in a while and see what happens. And from there, I regained the want to be able to do that with my child. So that was a big thing.
I think it's so important to listen to patients, like me with my nursing background, and Luba's a nurse practitioner, so you understand.
Yeah.
I think it, like, nowadays in the healthcare field, like, we're so quick to like look at people as like a book and just like this, that's it, next. And no, like, we have to treat each other like human beings and listen to what, like, I think that at the end of the day, that's all that was. Like, I was always honest with Luba. Like, I may not have all the answers in the world, but I will do everything in my power to like find that answer for you. And if I can't even, I'm just here to listen to like, and listen to you cry. And I think, like, I'm not a mom yet, but I could imagine that sometimes all you need is someone to listen to you. Because like I said, this is a very lonely, like, it's not lonely with if you're going through, like, you have your support and your baby, like, but it can be very lonely. So I hope that I can just be a shoulder.
It just gives you an example, because like the person who was the one who was my primary first person that I saw was a mama of like several kids, who was like a milkmaid, like could breastfeed for the rest of her life, and it was so glorious, blah blah blah. And she couldn't meet me where I was caught with some difficulties and setbacks. And maybe you're not a mom, but you're fine tuned to listening to what's going on with a patient and having a problem, which makes it easier for a patient to work with you and you finding a solution to the problem.
Yeah, just listening.
It's huge.
Just listening. That's all. I just want to be able with Latch to reach as many moms as I can, and dads too. Like, it's not just you that I treat. I actually talk to dads too, and I think it's super important just to listen, to have you guys talk every now and then. And like, speaking of that, like, another aspect that I just want to ask, because I feel like a lot of people need this advice, is relationship advice. Can you share any relationship advice with anyone out there that, you know, it's not that they hate each other, but I'm sure there's those days that you guys haven't slept for like 5 days in a row, which I know you guys have gone through, and you guys probably want to kill each other. So what is your advice?
Maybe I'll start, and then you
go.
can finish it off. I'll tell you, to the new dads out there, and you're hearing our story, because every story is different, but in our story, in the case where she just went through 9 months of carrying this beautiful life, and hormones and body changes, all kinds of things that have been affecting her and still affect her, and hormonal changes, etc. Still in the mix with that. The 2 words, best advice that I received, because it's still, you're still going to go through that, right? It's the system is still there, the hormones. So the best 2 words that I received from my good friend Alex was, yes, dear. That's it. You want the secret to this to this marriage, to making sure that she's happy. The frustrations are always going to be there. The temperament, uh, and us as dads, like, hey, our input here is X amount, right? And hers is just exponentially much larger, because she's using her body to feed our son, and so forth. And there's all kinds of emotions and hormones, and we may not know that. We're tuned differently. But if we can respond to yes, dear, or no problem, I'll take care of it, and just being there, I think that takes us, like fathers out there, the next step. It helps us get through the day, helps her get through and I believe a lot of mothers out there, they know that. But being able to respond in just that simple way helps us overcome many of those challenges that many
I think
couples out there.
Yeah, because it's like you're always going to be one up on the situation, because you're the one who's literally going through everything. He may be sleep deprived, but you're even more sleep deprived, because, like, say when we were like exclusively pumping and I wasn't able to latch him, he was helping me in the middle of the night, like give bottle while I would go pump.
For sure.
Or it was like always there was a situation, but it's like it's easy to just get the bottle, but I have to go sit there for 30 minutes, calm, and then you're stressing about how much you
How much?
pumped. Man, I should probably get up in another hour and pump again. Like if I was doing a cluster feed, and there's just so much going on, and you know, when you don't sleep, the true person comes out. You know, you become feisty, and we bickered every once in a while. Don't get me wrong, like, you know, we love each other, but you know, when you're tired and you're both haven't slept, and like your goal is like to have this child sleep, and then also to like you're frustrated with like milk breast production and all that stuff. You know, it takes a toll. This becomes like a priority in your life. You're like, this is all you talk about. You're like, how many ounces did you make? Okay, I got to pump. No, I need you to hold the baby. No, I got to do this. And then it's like you got to have support. But your relationships get tested because, you know, hard. It's a lot of work, and you have to have a lot of compassion with each other. We've had fights before, and we're like, hey, I'm sorry, you know, like that wasn't me. It was just, you know, we're tired and it's hard. It's just this is a really hard process we're all going through. And other people make it seem like, oh, it's so glorious. You know, everything's perfect. No, things are not perfect. You know, life is hard. We all have to go back to work at the end of the day. We all have things to do in the house. We're trying to maintain a household, you know.
You have dogs?
Oh, we do. We have dogs. We have 3 dogs. And, you know, like you have to balance it out, and you have to be there for each other. So, the whole yes dear is great, but supporting each other and showing up every day is probably going to be the best thing to maintain your relationship. And then also like having a check, like, hey, let's check out what's going on here, that we're getting to the point where we're like, we're going to have a big fight, you know, because we're tired.
Wow.
And just meeting each other in the middle and just having open ground of communication, I think is super important. And that's just in general in any relationship. But when you have a baby, a newborn, and you're tired, like you need to have that even more.
For sure. And I'm going to touch base like on what you said earlier about it's a season. I think it's important. I mean, who am I to give you guys advice? I've never been through it myself, but I'm just going to throw this out there, and maybe you've talked about it. It's important to know that this is a season, like in your marriage, like, because this is part of marriage. Having, if you're blessed to be able to have babies, it's part of the season, and this too shall pass. And you'll soon be able to. You went on a date today.
Yeah, we went to go to Green Street.
So
we'll have breakfast.
That's good. So that will happen more and more, right?
Yeah, it will. And it's just hard because, you know, when you are breastfeeding and you're out and about, it's not necessarily the most comfortable thing, breastfeeding in public. Can I do it? Yeah. But in the Miami hot heat,
oh my God,
nobody wants to do that.
Yeah.
You know, or like, okay, let me pump a bottle before I go and give him a little bit of bottle and make sure I can get it back so I can put him on the boob later. Like, there's so much that goes into this.
Just leaving the house. You have to, plan everything.
It's hard. And like, if I had to resort to formula, it probably would be easier in my life, but it's something that I chose that I wanted to do. And if I can make it to 6 months, great. If I can make it to a year, great.
Yes.
I don't know how long I'm going to do it for, but I know that I'm doing it now.
Yes.
And I've been doing it for the last almost 4 months and still going strong.
I think you're doing amazing. Luba has shared with me that I've shared with several patients that she's doing her breast, guys. And I think that's super important. I have told many moms, because I think you're doing your breast.
It's my quote. I'm doing my breast. I mean, I'm doing my best. This is the best I can do.
Yes.
And, you know, it's just, you know, you're learning as you go, and
it's about taking the small wins too. I always share that with my patients, especially patients that their baby stops latching out of nowhere, and you just got to take the little wins. And I'm so glad that you kept pushing her, not pushing, I don't like that word, but encouraging her to just go ahead and try to latch. And I think that's amazing. Is there anything else, any advice, any other advice you want to share, anything else that you want to take this moment to share?
I think if you're planning on having a baby, or if you're, you know, your goal is to have a baby and breastfeed, you definitely need to seek consultation with Latched and get the runaround of like what are the basics you need to know. Not only emptively prior to giving birth, so you have like this baseline knowledge of like how should you latch your baby, because I didn't have any of that from the beginning, and then waiting until after I got home was just so frustrating because I'm like, oh my God, I want the person to come here ready so they can help me latch my baby. But seeking somebody who's well versed in their practice to help you prior to going to the hospital is super important. as well as like newborn care, because I know you do all that stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
And then to see you afterwards, because a lot of things change after you come home.
100%.
So like, we met a lot of times throughout my journey, and there's things that changed all the time besides him not latching, or like the issues with my pumping and stuff
For
like
sure.
that. So having somebody you can go to, like Annalise with Latch, they could help you, figure these things out. You're more knowledgeable and you're stronger going in. So that's super important.
Okay, thank you. Anything you want to share?
Yeah, I'd say for those new dads, new parents out there, don't get discouraged if things aren't going, in your way. Um, Reach out to people. It's okay to talk to others other family members who've gone through the same situation. If you have that support network, if not, thank God, there's people like you, like Latch, that are available out there to overcome some of the challenges and being able to help support families in need, especially when it comes to latching on the babies.
Guys, thank you so much for being here, especially being my first. These are my first parents doing this Latch TV interview, and I can't thank you enough. It's been a pleasure. I think it's super important we get to share this with our community.
Absolutely.
And like Luba had said, I do prenatal consultations, which is very important because I will always be honest with you. I will not sugarcoat anything. I will always prepare you for the best and the worst so that you're prepared ahead of time. I do baby care classes and I do CPR classes. But nothing. Thank you so much for watching. Tune in for our next episode and follow me on Instagram, Latch Consultations. Thank you so much.